Yes, Geordies, welcome back to another scouting episode. And I was honestly going to start my strikers series today, but this midfielder keeps on getting linked to Newcastle United. He did about 2 years ago, and the rumours resurfaced. And I thought, why not just do one more midfielder? It's not going to harm anybody, and you get to learn about a player that could potentially be at Newcastle United next season. This is the second time we've been linked to him, so somebody at the club likes him, whether that be Eddie Howe, whether that be Steve Nicol, the chief scout. Somebody at the club really rates this player. So we're going to be breaking him down, looking at his strengths, weaknesses, and then comparing them to our three midfielders, Joelinton, Bruno, and Sandro Tonali. You've probably guessed it by the thumbnail already, but that player is Gabri Viega. So let's look at who he is first of all. Well, he was born on the 27th of May 2002, which makes him 22 at the moment. He stands at 6 foot. He's made 120 appearances, scoring 23 goals, providing 14 assists. He's missed 95 days, 15 games through injury, and he began his football career as a youth product of Celta de Vigo, and then he was promoted to the senior team in January 2023. Despite strong interest from European clubs, Man City, Liverpool, Chelsea, Napoli, Newcastle were all linked to him. It was a Saudi Arabian club that activated his release clause of 40 million, who he joined on a 3-year deal. And I've seen some Newcastle fans saying, you know where his mindset is because he's went to Saudi Arabia. I disagree with that. I believe that when you activate a release clause, you've pretty much got no choice but to join that club. And when somebody's hiring so much money towards you at that young age, you're never ever going to turn it down. Who are we to be criticising a guy that's just doing an absolute gloat in Saudi Arabia? I don't care about that. He's still young enough to come back to Europe and have a brilliant career. So as you probably guessed it, Gabri Viega is a midfielder, but he's versatile. He allows him to thrive in central midfielder and as an attack midfielder and as a left winger. So Newcastle signing him could instantly add some squad depth ahead of next season. So as I've just mentioned, he's a right-footed midfielder who's played centrally, attack midfielder, and on the odd occasion on the left-hand side. So some of his strengths are he's got exceptional awareness, and it's a major part of his games. He makes intense but intelligent runs forward regardless of the role and formation. He has a strong understanding of when to release himself from midfield and join attacks, often timing his runs well to arrive in space. Most of his goals have come from deep runs from midfield. Viega has also adapted driving forward and carrying the ball through the lines, aiming to slide runners in behind, utilising his terrific technical abilities, but also his brilliant vision. He's also an excellent dribbler. He uses power to work his way out of trouble in crowded spots before making driving runs into the final third. One of my favourite aspects about Viega's game is his tendency to always play forward, on and off the ball. He favours vertical passes whenever he receives a ball, and he's quick to identify progressive passing lanes to exploit. He's a midfielder who holds excellent vision and the quality to create one-on-one situations or find forward passes between the lines. He's positive in his play. He's always looking to penetrate from central areas or as an attack midfielder between the lines, despite the risk of losing possession. But Viega's definitely at his fluid best when he's with like-minded runners around him, especially centre forwards. Alexander Isak. What I really like about Viega is how intelligent he is. He adapts his game depending on the role he's been given. So when he's playing as an attack midfielder, he looks to slip balls in behind. When he's playing as a central midfielder, he takes a responsibility of linking midfield to attack. So on the defensive side, he's an active and aggressive presser when his team loses a ball. He's quite strong in one-on-one defensive situations and he times his tackles well, but there's still room for improvement in the defensive part. One thing I will say about Viega, if you are going to play him centrally, you need to play him with an elite ball winner because he doesn't hold those qualities. And I often say profiles make up partnerships on the football pitch. So when you've got a player like Viega who wants to get on the ball, wants to move forward with the ball, wants to penetrate with the ball, you need a disciplined ball winner next to him. Somebody that can just screen the back line and allow Viega to really drive in that final third. So when it comes to profile-wise, you would have to be profiled with an elite ball winner if you want to play him centrally in a double pivot. So just to recap his major qualities, his off-ball movement, he always looks to run into space. He looks to run in behind the defensive line, which I really like as a midfielder because they're so difficult to track. Secondly, his ability on the ball. He gets a ball and he always wants to play forward. This is why when we look at these statistics, you might look at them and think they don't look great. But when you watch him play, it's different kettle of fish because he's that player that will put his team into dangerous situations, will put his team into advanced situations, and I love that quality in a midfielder. Just like any young player, there is some weaknesses to his game. Now, he is quite experienced, playing over 100 games. He's only 22 years old, but when he's playing deeper in midfield, he likes to jump out and press as a number 10, so you'll always try and go and win the ball. This leads to leaving big space around him, leading for more space for the opponents to exploit. So he doesn't really have that defensive discipline is what I'm talking about. And that's why he would need to be paired with an elite duel winner if he was to come to the Premier League. So what I'm trying to say is, because he's a jumper and wants to step out the line, that he's dead easily baited into a press. And once you get baited into a press with players with good speed of thought, they can just move the ball around you. So we need to be wary of that if he was to come. So everything I've just said contributes to him giving away needless fouls, because he gets frustrated because he's not winning the ball back or they move the ball around him, and he just brings down his opponent. So little things like that, Eddie Howe would have to coach into him. Now, dribbling as well, he's a good dribbler, don't get us wrong. He's comfortable in tight spaces. He's very good at getting out of pressure. But sometimes when he's forced to react on the fly, he can often struggle and be erratic. And next up is his pass selection. You'll often see him choosing the wrong option, and this is why his passing statistics are quite low. We're going to be looking at these very shortly, so that can be concerning. I like his ball retention skills. He's so good at just creating an angle for himself to move the ball, but often when he goes to move the ball, he doesn't take as much care as what he does when he's keeping a hold of the ball. So a little bit more ball appreciation when he's releasing the ball would help and elevate his pass selection. And then more discipline on his off-ball defensive game. For the reasons above, you have to be pairing with an elite duel winner. I don't think he could play the lone 6 role by himself. So if he was to come to Newcastle and we're thinking about where he could play, he could definitely occupy the Bruno role, and then at times he could play the Joelinton role, in my opinion. So the reason why I say at times, if we're playing against somebody like Man City, where we're not going to see much of the ball, there's no point in him playing in that Joelinton role because he doesn't have that discipline. But if we're playing against somebody like Ipswich at home, when we're going to have the majority of the ball, we're going to be looking to impose our game on them, then having deep runs from Viega as well as Bruno could actually work. So pretty much what I'm saying is his position will depend on who we're playing. So if we're playing somebody like Fulham at home, I'd be happy with him playing that Joelinton role. But if we're playing somebody like Liverpool at home, I wouldn't like him playing that Joelinton role. That's just a couple of examples. So it would have to base on who we're playing against. But definitely, if we're playing Man City or Liverpool, he could definitely occupy that Bruno role. So I was talking about his versatility and his adaptability. This is his heat map when he was at Celta Vigo and then when he was in Saudi Arabia. And you can see the difference where he's happy to play on the right-hand side, covering that right-hand side, but he's also happy to cover that left-hand side as well. So he's got that adaptability about him, which is really positive in today's game because formations change. And even if we're playing 5 at the back, he could easily play one of those 2 number 10 roles. Like we're seeing when we're at Arsenal in our last game, Gordon Barnes occupied that role. He would be perfect to fill in one of those roles. But this is how his heat map compares to Bruno, Joelinton and Tonali. And as you can see, in Saudi Arabia, he's been occupying that left-hand side. So he's been playing left in the midfield. But I've got no doubt if he was to play the Bruno role, he would be able to adapt. He wouldn't always drift over that left-hand side because we're seeing him do it at Celta Vigo. So this is how he compares in a statistic point of view to all 3. And as you can see, his 2 main attributes are chance creation and goal threat. I mentioned his ability to slip through balls, being so creative in the final third, but he's also got the ability to arrive in the box late, very much like Frank Lampard-esque. So here's how he compares to midfielders in Europe's top 5 leagues. Now, these statistics are when he was playing in Europe, so these are from Celta Vigo days, because quite frankly, I couldn't find any from the Saudi Arabian days. So these are Celta Vigo statistics. So he's playing in Spain at the time. And as you can see, he gets a lot of shots off per 90, which I really like in an attack midfielder. 2.4 shots per 90, and he's getting 46.8% on target, which is really pleasing. But when it comes to creating, I mentioned his vision and his ability to execute slip balls through and find runners in behind. He's averaging 3.14 shot creating actions per 90, but 2.28 of them are coming after a live pass. So his ability to create from different angles in the final third is absolutely exceptional. And then his next a bit way of creating is after a successful take on. So I mentioned his ability to take on a player, just open up different angles where he can execute down passing lanes, and that shows you exactly how good he is at it. So then we'll move on to his possession and passing statistics. And on the eye, they don't look great, but when you watch him, you know he's got the ability to execute those through balls. It's because he takes more risks with his passing. He's not a safe passer where it's just side to side and backwards. He likes to penetrate with passing, which is a good quality in an attack midfielder. But sometimes when he's playing centrally, he does need to take a little bit more care with his ball playing. When it comes to his touching statistics, most of his touches come in the middle third, in the final third. So I mentioned his lack of ability to play as a number 6. He's not the one that will receive the ball off the defenders and then link up defense to midfield. He's the one that will receive the ball in midfield and link up midfield to attack. That's where you get the best out of him, and that's where he excels. And that's why I don't think he could play that Sandro Tonali role. It's more about playing that Bruno role if Gabri Viega was to come to Newcastle United. Now, one thing I will say, when it comes to taking care of the ball and ball retention skills, I quite worry about him a little bit in the Premier League because he needs to learn how to use his body better to protect the ball. I think he gets away with it a little bit in La Liga and Saudi Arabia, but when you come in the Premier League and it's a lot more athletic and physical, you'll have to learn how to use his body to protect the ball a little bit better. But good players adapt to the circumstances to hand, so it'll be interesting to see whether he could do that or not. And then finally, if we look at his defensive statistics, as you can see, they're not spectacular, but they're not bad either for an attack midfielder. He's averaging just shy of 2 tackles per 90. Majority of these tackles come in the middle third, which is no surprise. But as you can see, he's not very successful when it comes to dribblers tackled. So this is why I don't think he can play the Joelinton role against the bigger teams. Because if you remember what Joelinton did in the cup final, kept an eye on Mohamed Salah. He was constantly going over that left-hand side, protecting our left back and doubling up on Mohamed Salah. He's not that kind of player. So you would only be able to play the Joelinton role when we're going to dominate possession, when we're really going to create. But having said that, he does work hard off the ball. He presses well. He's got a nice tenacity about him, which is why he's averaging 5 ball recoveries per 90. And when it comes to his aerial statistics, he doesn't get involved in many aerial duels, but he's winning over half of them, which is quite pleasing. But again, he doesn't really get involved in them. And this is how he compares in a side-by-side comparison to our 3 midfielders. And the thing that I love about Gabri Viega here is how many shots he gets off, how many gets on target. He's averaging 1.2 shots per 90 on target. I sometimes feel we don't shoot enough. So having a midfielder that's confident and brave enough to have a go, sometimes you earn your own luck by shooting. And he's getting more assists than anybody else. And only Bruno is creating more opportunities than him. So looking at these statistics, I could definitely see him playing that Bruno role. When it comes to the defensive side of the game, as you can see, successful take-ons completed. He's averaging more than anybody else, quite a lot more. When it comes to ball recoveries, passes in general, clearances, blocks, he's averaging less than anybody else. And a surprising statistic here, Joelinton's averaging more touches in the opponent's box than any of these 3 players. But one thing I will say, the reason why he's playing less forward passes, less backward passes, less sideways passes, is because Celta Vigo didn't really play through the lines. They were more of a direct team. They looked to penetrate into space from long balls from their defenders. So they didn't really pass the ball into midfield and play from there. When you watch him in Saudi Arabia as opposed to the Spanish league, it's a lot different because he can get on the ball a lot more and he has a little bit more experience than what he did there. But look, that's the type of player you're going to be getting. For me, he plays that Bruno role. I don't think he could play that Sandro Tonali role because one, he doesn't have that defensive instincts, and he could only play that Joelinton role when we're playing against a lesser team, if you like. So that's my opinion on him, and there's the statistics and a couple of videos for you to enjoy. But if you've enjoyed this video, and if you would like Gabri, I keep on saying Ronaldo Viega, if you would like Gabri Viega at Newcastle United, let me know in your comments below. But also, don't forget to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and until next time, away the lads.